Hello, everyone. My name is Joyce Masvaya, and welcome to Dear Future Leaders, a youth empowerment hub where we help young people to grow and thrive. Today, we have Gift Ostallos Siziba. Gift, welcome to the Youth Empowerment Hub.
Thank you very much, Joyce. Greetings to fellow listeners.
Thank you. We are so excited to have you here. Your journey is deeply inspiring, from rising from humble beginnings to becoming one of the youngest members of the parliament in Zimbabwe and serving as a national leader, and also being recognized internationally through programs like Mandela Washington Fellowship and the Obama Foundation Fellowship. I was especially moved when I watched your speech introducing President Barack Obama. You carry yourself with such eloquence, conviction, and presence. And today we would like to explore not only your leadership journey, but also how young people can actively participate in public policy and politics. So let's dive in. We're going to start with your background and your journey into leadership. Can you please tell us about yourself and how you became a young politician? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm also sure whether I'm still young now. I'm past 30, but of course, I'm still below 35. I grew up in Bulawayo, which is the second capital city of our country. And of course, went to primary and high school in that part of the country, and then went to the University of Zimbabwe to study political sciences, my first degree, and then did my master's in international relations at the University of Zimbabwe, and of course pursued my PhD, which I'm currently doing at the University of Free State in South Africa. My journey has, of course, been a journey for fighting for justice, social justice in particular. Having grown up in a marginalized part of our country, that naturally gave us passion to fight for an equally egalitarian society. So that has been what has informed our struggles as student leaders at the University of Zimbabwe. We became part of the leadership of the Students' Union to fight for academic freedoms as researchers. And it is at that time, obviously, having joined the student movement, that we got an understanding that our struggles for academic freedom are directly connected to the resolution of the national question and the struggle of the oppressed world over. So these connections of our struggles as student leaders and the national struggles and the international struggles connected us to these struggles that we're pursuing today. We're made to have an understanding that the researchers and students want the freedom unless and until the nation is free. And the fact that the working people and the suffering and the oppressed world over face these similar struggles. And that's why we became internationalists in the pursuit of our struggles and began to give the regional, continental, and the international attitude to our struggle. So this became my genesis. And of course, I then became part and parcel of the leadership of the democratic movement, then the movement for democratic change in the youth of the party, and became the national secretary general of the young people in my country. And of course, joined other struggles in the country, the fight for a constitution through the National Constitutional Assembly, which we're part of, and of course became part and parcel of other struggles as young leaders across the continent, and joined fellow young people in advancing that struggle, not just in Zimbabwe, but also giving it a regional international outlook. Then went into parliament in the last election, having won a constituency in Pelandaba, and of course served in the democratic movement as the national spokesperson, and doubled, of course, as the presidential spokesperson for the main opposition leader, Advocate Nelson Chamisa. So this, I think, briefly summarizes my journey from the City of Kings and to this very day.
That's quite inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing your story. You mentioned that you became one of the youngest members of parliament in Zimbabwe. What challenges did you face as a young leader, and how did you overcome them?
Look, I think that politics in the African continent is highly influenced by particularly for countries like Zimbabwe that went through a liberation struggle, and most African countries. So a combination of the historical experience of the country and the cultural experience, those two are naturally devised against young people, because this is a country that is still stuck in the liberation hangover that we liberated you, therefore those who were in the liberation struggle must be leading, naturally making it a generational issue and an age question. So when you are coming into this space as a young person, that is the immediate challenge that you face. And these challenges are not unique to Zimbabwe. They are prevalent across the African continent. Secondly is the question of culture, that young people should not be in the highest decision-making body of their countries on the basis that they are young, because they sell us the idea that we have to worry about the future. We belong to the future, but that future must be built now. So those became the direct impediment for my campaign, the question of age and the question of culture. I had to overcome that by giving a clear ideological thrust and direction into my proposition to say can be able to play a role. And in fact, it's we as young people, because we are taught in our struggle never to say I. So our experiences are that of a generation that we represent. So as younger people, our position was that we have to be in the highest decision-making body of our country, because the decisions that are being made today will have an impact into our future and that of our children. So we had to overcome those impediments. And of course, the question of financial muscle is also an important. Our politics is dominated by big money. So you have to overcome that, not by trying to join the same political culture of using money, but to bring new politics of ideas, of principles and values, that we don't have to have deep pockets, but we have to have ideas to take our country forward. So my campaign was centered around a clear ideological pathway, clear ideological and policy proposition on how we intend to advance the legislative agenda of our country. And it made people to begin to realize that young people can be able to do it.
Wow, I agree with you so much. Many people, many young people, they see politics as a dirty game, and it is like you said, it is dominated by older generations. So, as a former member of the parliament, what steps have you taken to engage meaningful youth participation despite these perceptions?
Look, the first thing is that we started a show that we call the Tete a Tete, which is basically a conversation, a young person and a young person that I co-host with Comrade Mlambo, fellow young person, which basically generates the conversation in the country, because being young is not enough. So we have to show that we've got the necessary ideas to be able to take our country forward. So the platform is basically to share knowledge, to inspire younger people, and to make them understand that, look, we have to participate in the political processes of our country. And secondly, we also ran a campaign called 1 Million Youth Campaign. So a part and parcel of that younger people was to organize, recruit, train, and prepare young people to be able to contest not just into being members of parliament, but also to be in councils and run the cities. And I can tell you that the success of that program and stories that we had so many young people who went with us in parliament in 2023, many of them prominent young people, Honorable Johanna Mamombe, Honorable Takuzwa Ngadziwore, a lot of young people, in fact, we had more than 50 young people went into parliament. Secondly, we're able to influence the laws of our country to have a youth quota, which is basically 10 seats allocated to young people in the parliament of Zimbabwe. And for the first time in 2023, we had the youth quota system, and young people came into parliament through that system. Some of us, of course, contested, but we also had seats that were reserved for younger people, which political parties deployed. And thirdly, I think the success of that conversation and program was that of the 32 urban cities that the Citizens Coalition for Change became a government in, we were able to deploy younger people, but not just young, but also young female mayors to run the city of Masvingo, in Epworth, in Mutare, and Kwekwe, and different parts of the country where the young people who are female who had been given the responsibility by our political party to become mayors, who then had to run the cities and show society and the world that young people can. We did the same in Harare, which is a plus $1 billion, city being run by a young female mayor, Kudzai, as the deputy mayor to Ian. So to a greater extent, I think we did so much to help young people begin to imagine their role in participating in the politics. But also, lastly, we were also able to use the internet to bring the liberating effect to young people to begin to raise their voices, towards the campaign in 2023, because we ran a Twitter and Facebook campaign for young people to register to vote and for young people to raise their voices through the internet, because it brought in that liberating effect to our generation to begin to participate in the political affairs. So young people were able to hold those in government to account. We're able also to campaign for their fellow young people, to also organize support and solidarity for young people who are coming into political offices. So I think that to a greater extent, we succeeded. And of course, also to get young people into political positions of our organization. I was the national deputy spokesperson of the party, speaking on behalf of millions of people when I was around 29 years of age. So the introduction of younger people into the Chamisa presidential campaign was also part and parcel of the achievements of that call and campaign to say, let young people be involved. And we think that to a greater extent, we're able to bring in young people, also young people of substance, because these were people who were trained, were educated, and who had the craft competence to influence the leadership agenda of our country.
Wow, those are a lot of achievements. I would love to applaud you for doing great work. Maybe there is another young person who want to get into politics, but they didn't hear about the 1 million campaign that you did. What are the steps, practical steps that you can give someone from 18 to 30? How can they get involved in public policy or politics? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that I'll propose the following step. Number one, I think that young people must begin to voice out. You must speak out of the challenges that your community faces, because politics to us is local. So it's not just about contributing to the national conversation, but also in your own locality. How are young people contributing to the challenges that their communities are facing? I come from Chabalala, and I continue to engage my people in the community, because it is them that can be able to deploy you either as a councillor or as a member of parliament or as a political party deployee. There's so many roles that people can play, not necessarily directly being elected, but also playing their role in political parties that are there in our country. So the first thing is that you have to raise your voice, be counted, contribute to the communities, be part and parcel of a community group, whether it is the residents association, whether it is the community pressure groups, where the concerns of the people are raised. That way you are nurtured and being built into a community leader, because our country needs people that are rooted directly in the struggles of the communities. Secondly, I think that if you want to take the journey of leadership, you have to prepare yourself in terms of your ideological and intellectual attitude and altitude, because that will then guide the political organization that you can belong to. I belong to the Democratic Alternative, which is the opposition in the country. And what informs someone to join us is because of the values. Must not be because they so and so in that political organization. We believe in democracy, we believe in justice, we believe in freedom, we believe in solidarity. So if these values align with your own individual values, then you can join the collective of the democratic opposition in Zimbabwe. If you believe that the values of the ruling party also associate and identify with your values, then you join them. Because it's important for young people to join political organizations, whether it's the ruling opposition or independent political enterprises. It's important to join political establishment, because you need to have a home. Our legal and political jurisprudence in the country recognizes political parties. So I educate and advise young people, once they decide to contest for political office, to join political parties, because if you're an independent candidate in the context of Zimbabwe, it might be difficult to be able to canvass and organize enough political capital for you to win. So you have to identify a party that identifies with your values, join it, become a member, and contribute there. And then you also have an opportunity to be built as a leader. Because in political parties, the concentration is not always about going into parliament or council, but also building leaders, ideological training, cadreship development. So I would advise those that want to pursue political offices to consider joining a political party of their choice. We have 32 of them in the country. Of course, 2 are dominant, but we have 32 parties registered in the laws of our country. So I'll challenge young people to belong in those establishments so that they're able to contribute in terms of the policy direction, the interventions that parties do, but also to grow and to be able to contribute to the development of our country.
Thank you so much, Ostallos. You mentioned that you were selected to be the president of the student union at the University of Zimbabwe. Do you think that also helped you to climb the ladder in politics?
Look, I think that the democratic movement was founded out of the efforts of the students and the working people of our country. So there are those that came from the workers' movement and those that came from the students' union. I, for one, came from the students' union. I can say without absolute doubt that the Students' Union becomes a breeding ground for leaders. That is the purpose of Zimbabwe National Students' Union, to build the next generation of leaders. The labor movement also does the same, the civil society and other progressive platforms. The church also does that in the context of the Zimbabwe Council of Churches, to breed and bring and nurture leaders for tomorrow. So I think that it is without doubt that the Students' Union, I became the president of the Students' Union. You get to interact with power, test it. I think that many people say that power is sweet. I can confirm it. Power is sweet. But the good thing about the Students' Union is that you are given a period that you must be a president for 1 year. Whether you are good or you are not good, when your term comes, you have to leave. So it shocked me that one, leaders must lead and leave a mark in the annals of history of the institutions that they are leading. I was able to leave a mark in the annals of the Students' Union. Secondly, I think that it teaches you that power comes and go. You don't want to be in office forever, even if you are brilliant. So that political culture is inculcated in you as a student, that you serve, lead, and live. Because Africa is grappling with this problem of people who want to stay in power forever, who think that they are the know-it-all. So the Students' Union builds that culture in you, that you lead and live, but also it trains you to be able to speak to people, to speak to the concerns of the people, and of course to be able to articulate issues and to be able to research. So it played a pivotal role in preparing us. And when we are where we are now, we don't become lazy politicians because we've been prepared for this task, together with other institutions that were there, the ISO and other fellowships that we've been part and parcel of, that prepare us for this leadership journey. So yes, the Students' Union contributes to that, together with other various platforms that leaders get produced for.
Oh, thank you so much. You talked about values, that as a young person, if you want to join a party, you need to join a party that aligns with your own values. What are the most important traits of a good politician?
I think that I'm a social democrat who believe in the dominance of the 3 values: justice, freedom, and solidarity. I think that the first duty, Thomas Sankara raises something very fundamental. He says that a soldier without ideological orientation is a potential criminal. And I think that the words of Sankara speaks to us today, because if you want to serve the people, you must have a value system, an ideological standpoint. You can't be a leader if you're not clear in terms of your ideological posture. What do you stand for? Because the struggles in communities, so if we are fighting for water, it's an ideological issue, because as center left, we say that water is a constitutional right. It must be provided to the people for free. Because when you go to council, they will tell you that let's privatize water. When you go to parliament, they say, let's privatize education. They will say, let's not prioritize health for the people. But when you are ideologically trained, you would know that we must provide health to our people. It must be for free. We must provide water to our people. It must be for free. We must provide education to our people. It must be for free. But also, that we are able to speak to the struggles that are beyond our borders. So when there is xenophobia in South Africa, we ought to speak out because it's ideological inclination that tells us that the struggles of the poor world over are the same. That's why we raise our voices to the struggles of the suffering people of Palestine or Western Sahara or Black Lives Matter in the United States of America. It's because these struggles are ideological. It's about the struggle of the oppressed world over, Black people in general and Africans in particular. So to be able to connect to these struggles, you ought to have a clear ideological standpoint as a starting point, because that will give you a value system. Because I mean, when you are in particular in the African setup, these things will come to you. Either they will try and manipulate you, either they try and give you money, either they will try and say, join us, they'll give you trinkets and trappings of power. But when you are ideologically conscious, you are able to forego these trinkets and trappings of power because you have been prepared to understand that the center of our struggle are the oppressed. So every decision that I take, that we take as leaders, we always look at it, does it advance the struggles of the ordinary men and women who depend upon our political contribution in our country and in the world? So that keeps us on track. We will not wake up tomorrow saying, no, if people are protesting, they must be punished or beaten. We have to have a culture of conversation with the people. What are the concerns and how do we solve them? So I think that a value system is important. Principles are important, because if I belong to a political organization and realize that it's no longer aligning with my values, then I'll be able to shift and join an establishment, a political entity that aligns with my values. That's why people resign. That's why people take a break. And all those things that are informed by looking at your value system and its alignment with organization and institution that you might belong to.
So let's move to public speaking and global platforms. We have spoken at global platforms such as the Oslo Freedom Forum and Harvard Kennedy School, and also introduced President Obama. What goes through your mind before stepping into such stages?
I think that there are two things that are dominant on speaking on behalf of people. I think that the first is you must be a researcher, or at least you must have access to researchers. Now in the digital world, it's important to know what you are talking about and to have data to what you're speaking about and to verify what you are talking about. So I think that the first element is on the thought leadership side. You must invest. You can't speak in front of people if you are shy from visiting the library. Speaking to the people must have a direct correlation with your appetite to always visit the library, whether digitally or physically. Because I think that I introduced President Obama for maybe like 5 to 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I can't remember. But you must have read more than 20 books to do the 15 minutes introduction, because in those few minutes, your mind must be able to be efficient enough to be able to produce a coherent proposition and introduction and so forth. So I think that the first thing is the issue of research and thought leadership. Secondly, I think that for me is obviously wisdom. You ought to understand the audience. You ought to understand the people that you're speaking to. You also you have to understand that what is the intention of that particular address. So I think that those two have been my guiding principles. I always seek wisdom from different people, whether it's the elderly, those who have walked the journey before us, people who have led countries, people who have led business institutions. So each opportunity that I get to speak, whether it's to Dr. Stride Masiwa, my intention there is always to get wisdom from someone who's a billionaire, because that will inform me when I speak to different audiences in different parts of the world. So seeking knowledge, seeking understanding, those are things that will then give you confidence to speak in front of crowds, because what makes people shy when they are in front of crowds is because maybe they have a cramped speech, or you don't want to speak from the heart and from the mind. But I think that you must speak from the heart and you must speak from the mind. That will make it easier for you not to stammer. That will make it easier for you not to begin to shy, So because you must have confidence in what you're doing as a leader. I challenge young people to continue to read and to practice. I mean, I did not start by addressing in an international platform in New York. I started by addressing my community members, 13 of us, and there I would stammer, I would correct it, try to address a provincial meeting, in my city. I'll correct where I am and go to the next stage until you're able to speak to an international audience. It all starts in your own community, and people must practice. I mean, I don't think you can speak in front of people if you are not prepared to practice. Whether you are speaking to your sister or your brother or your mother or your father or your uncle at home, dress appropriately, like how you are going to be dressed, because that will allow you to have comfort. I mean, you can't address wearing an uncomfortable dress or, a suit. So you have to make sure that you dress comfortably. You have to make sure that you prepare, for years. I mean, I don't think that you get prepared for those 1 week where you are given a specific speech, but I think that it must be a continuous process of learning and unlearning. I listen to speeches given by different people in different parts of the world to learn how they address the crowds and how they deal with issues of anxiety and all those. Then they prepare you. I don't think there is a shy person. It's only that someone will not have prepared enough to speak to that audience, because the first time you do it, you obviously have problems, but practice makes perfect. So that's how you learn, and eventually, when you make it to this different regional, international platform, you're already prepared as a young speaker. And the world, I mean, is waiting for young people in these international spaces to come and speak and give the perspective of the major demographic group in the world. We are the major demographic group in the African continent. And therefore, many of the leaders, whether it's in the African Union, whether it's in SADC and different regional bodies, whether it's the World Bank, the IMF, they're looking for young people to come and share the perspective of young people, whether in environment, whether you are an activist, whether in political spaces, whether in academic. You ought to be able to occupy spaces and speak on behalf of your generation.
Thank you so much for your advice. Now we can move to fellowship and global recognition. We have been selected for prestigious programs like the Mandela Washington Fellowship and the Obama Foundation Fellowship. What strategies made your application stand out?
I think that to be part and parcel of such fellowships that brings together young leaders from across the world, you must be authentic. Nothing beat authenticity. People are not looking for someone who says some fictitious stories. It's important to talk about your challenges, but we must see that this is real. This is not some fake AI developed story to look for sympathy. The world is not giving anyone sympathy. It's trying to look at how probably your challenge as a young person did not stop you from getting into other spaces and persevering. That's the purpose. You don't have to look for pity. I was not looking for pity when I was applying for the Obama Foundation. I was very clear that despite having grown to a gardener, I have objectives and intentions, and that as a generation, we have to make it to the appointment with the future. And our background does not stop us from achieving that. So the world is not looking to give us pity as young people and as Africans. The world is looking for bold and decisive leadership. So I was able to demonstrate that I have clarity of where I'm going, whether or not I get the fellowship. I've got an appointment with the future, and that's where we're going. And we intend to make sure that we develop our skills So that's what I was looking for in the fellowship, to develop my skills, to network with other young people. So I was very clear in terms of my intentions and objectives, and my key ask to the fellowship facilitators, that I'm looking to network with other young people, because my struggles in Zimbabwe are not limited to our borders. I have to connect with younger people from different parts of the world, so that I learn from them, I share my experience with them. And the fellowship offers precisely that. And of course, to share that, I have to develop my skills as a thought leader, as a researcher, and as a political practitioner. So I was not looking for pity, but I was also authentic on my stories, that these are my challenges, but they don't shape where I'm going, but they are a reminder, a stark reminder of the challenges that are before us, and that we must remain connected to the people. So I think that anyone who would want to apply for a short fellowship must be authentic, must show their competencies, must also connect the dots about where they are heading to, because this is an investment. And I don't think that a Mandela Washington Fellowship or the Obama Fellowship or any other fellowship that supports young people would want to de-invest by bringing young people together. It must be an investment into the future of their countries, investment into their communities, investment into growth of society world over. So you must be able to show that. How are you contributing to that growth? How are you contributing to that progress to make the world a better place?
Thank you so much. I agree with you. Authenticity differentiates you. So it is always important to be very, very authentic. Do you have any advice for young people who want to get into public speaking? You mentioned about the ability to read, the ability to research, the ability to seek for wisdom.
My advice to them is that prepare yourselves. I think that what defines a successful young person going into the future is going to be their ability to prepare, because success is when an opportunity meets preparedness. An opportunity will come, but if you are not prepared, you're not going to record success. And that's why there are so many young people that will go to parliament, or individuals, not necessarily younger people, that can go to parliament and at times fail to leave a mark. I became the president of the University of Zimbabwe. There were so many presidents before me and so many presidents after me. But I think that what would distinguish one president from the other is how you have been preparing for that leadership. So it's the same when it comes to business, entrepreneurship, advocacy, and all these different realms of leadership that young people pursue, whether they are in the academia and so forth. It's about preparedness. You ought to prepare. You don't have to wait for the opportunity to come and start preparing, because the opportunity will come when you're not prepared, and then you will record a failure instead of a success. And no one wants to associate with failure. Everyone wants to associate with success. That's why there's many fathers. I have so many people that will claim that we contributed to his growth, because they'll be looking at certain successful issues that we've attained. But if I was a failure today and a drug addict, no one would have claimed. I mean, I was sent to school by Strive Masiwa under the Joshua Ngomo Scholarship. If I was a failure today, none of them would mention that they helped fund our education. But if we become better people, they will share the story, inspire other younger people, share it with the world as part and parcel of their success story in terms of social investment. So I think that preparedness is important. Preparedness. It doesn't matter your status. It doesn't matter your conditions. It doesn't matter where you are. You ought to prepare. Second thing, I think that we have to network, develop the skills to network. And now the world is globalized. With through Twitter or Facebook, you can link up with someone who's in thousands of miles away from where you are. I'm connected to you now. You are in the United Kingdom. I'm in Zimbabwe. And we've been connected via the internet. So the effective utilization of these social platforms, it's important to post your pictures in the sea, in the beach, is good, but also utilize this digital platform to connect with the global village, because that's what at least it allows you to. So that's why I'm on LinkedIn, that's why I'm on Facebook and on Twitter. I use these platforms to connect with fellow young people, like-minded individuals, and mentors across the world, because the worst thing that my mentor used to tell me, the worst thing you can get when you want to network with someone is a no. They're not going to send you to prison. They're not going to kill you. We just say no. So you can't be afraid of someone just saying no. There is no fault, there is no price, there is no cost in trying. Because either someone will say yes or someone will say no. So the worst you can get is a no. The best you can get is a yes. So you have to prepare, you have to expand your network, expand your knowledge, expand your capabilities and abilities. And more importantly, seek education. Now it's easy to learn whether you are going in class or you are learning online. You have to advance your knowledge, you have to advance your research abilities, because the future is for those that would have the ability to grasp and the ability to provide solutions to the challenges that our society is facing.
Thank you so much, Ostallos. I'm sure a lot of young people are learning from you. So let's move on to reflections and future goals. So looking back, what is that one defining moment that affirmed that you're on the right path as a leader?
I've not quite reflected on a specific event about my past, but I think that when I left university and I was unemployed, the fact that at that moment I had a moment of reflection about where I want to go, and those moments are very dear to me. My first job was working at Econet, and when I got my job, I was very clear to my manager at the time that, look, I'm here on my way to my appointment with the future. And this corporate space is not my destination, because it was very clear to me that I have a call and an appointment with destiny, which is not precisely the corporate space, but it's a learning platform and for me to be able to afford meals and to pay my rentals. But I was clear at that moment that my path is particularly in leadership and transformation. And from that day up to this very day, I've been on that journey. I've recorded successes, I've recorded failures, I've had challenges, and I look into the future and forge into that future without fear, because I know that a tape is set for us as a generation to be able to change the lives of our people. And I've lived my life without doubt because of that affirmation that every day is an affirmation that I'm in the right path, an affirmation that comes from my mentors, that comes from my friends, that comes from the family that we meet along the journey of leadership, and of course from the ordinary people who remain to us at the center of why we're doing what we're doing. So because there's that social contract, there's that relationship and solid affirmation from our people, to me, every day has been a constant reminder that we have to make it to the appointment.
Thank you so much, Ostallos. Looking ahead, what are your aspirations in Zimbabwean politics and international leadership? How can young people learn from or support your journey?
Thank you very much. My journey is a journey that is a collective journey of a generation, a journey of the oppressed, a journey of those that believe in democracy and transformation. And I think that our desired objective and goal is establishment of a democratic developmental state. That is the central objective of the struggle that I'm part and parcel of. And my individual contribution is going to be the realization of that society, a society with an economy that works for everyone. So I would be equipping myself with the necessary skills and knowledge to contribute that. Because we did not come to politics as a career choice, but we came into politics, like President Tsvangirai will say to us, out of a burning desire from a country that needs leadership, from a country that needs to make it towards transformation via the fourth industrial revolution. So my contribution is going to be around that fight, around that desired strategic objective of the democratic opposition and alternative politics in my country. Where I'll be stationed depends from one position to another. And for us, it's not the preoccupation in terms of whether I'm going to be a minister, whether I'm going to be a member of parliament, whether I'm going to be a vice president, and so forth. Our preoccupation is that how do we become parcel of these victorious forces that are being changed to our country? Whatever way we contribute, whether we are secretaries in that platform, whether we are members, as long as we are contributing to that cause, That's how I project myself going into the future. That when we become triumphant at the end of the day, we must be part and parcel of the people that are counted to have contributed to the journey of democracy in our country. And that gives me satisfaction. And at that moment, of course, I'll be able to then retire and return back into academia and begin to contribute to the theoretical work in our country and the imagination process through academic work. So that's how I see myself in the next 15, 20 years, having served in the public arena, go back to the academia and contribute to the theoretical foundations of the work that we're doing now, having had some experience from being a political practitioner. So that's how I see myself and my contributions to the body politic of our country.
Thank you so much. So how can young people, maybe in Zimbabwe or the world over or in the region, support your journey?
I think that solidarity is important. Many times, the struggle that we are engaging is a struggle that requires so much sacrifice. We sacrifice a lot in this struggle, including our lives. So I think that the support and solidarity from fellow young people in our country, in the region, and internationally is the solidarity with not just myself as an individual, but the support of the democratic processes in our country. The support of the democratic processes in Zimbabwe, for me, is crucial through acts of solidarity. You know, when this struggle also invites arrests, torture, I was arrested and tortured myself during my political activism. What kept me going in the maximum prison of our country was that I knew that there are people who are demanding my freedom from different parts of the world. That gives you courage. That always your conviction. That gives you the necessary determination and the strength to continue doing that. You are doing the right thing. You know, at times you might not necessarily need people to do anything, but to just give you the affirmation that you are doing the correct thing. Even if that costs me my life, I'm doing it because at the end of the day, society is going to know that we did our best. Today, we talk about Nelson Mandela, we talk about Martin Luther King, we talk about Mahatma Gandhi, and we talk about Thomas Sankara, we talk about, different leaders in the world and in our own countries. We do so because they dared to speak and stand on behalf of the people. And what is life without a legacy? So for me, that solidarity and support from the people who believe in this struggle, who believe in the quest for democracy in our country is sufficient to keep us going, is sufficient to make us who we are today, but more importantly, for us to do our part and not to lose our consciousness along the journey, to be able to remain true to these values, to remain true to these struggles, and remain true to those that sent us to speak on their behalf. So I think that regional and international solidarity and support is important, not just for myself as an individual, but for the Democrats and fighters across our country and, of course, in the entire continent.
Thank you so much, Ostallos. What do you think is the most important mindset shift young Africans need to embrace to lead effectively in politics and public service today?
I think that Africa must realize that no one is coming to save us. Africa must stop this dependency syndrome. We have to begin to focus within our continent. I think that Africans must begin to understand what Kwame Nkrumah was talking about when he was talking about African renaissance, as re-emphasized by Thabo Mbeki in South Africa. I think that we need to begin to understand that as Africans, the destination of Africa and its destiny is in the hands of Africans. It can't be in the hands of the Paris Club of Lenders. It can't be in the hands of the Bretton Woods institutions economically. We can't think that we're going to develop the continent by continuing to borrow. That's why we are stuck in trillion-dollar debt, trillions of dollars of debt that the continent faces. We continue to ask for medicines from the West or from the East. Africa has to develop itself from within. This is what China did. This is what Singapore, the Asian tigers, Taiwan, Japan, they were focusing inwards. We have to focus on the following things. One, we have to value beneficiate our own mineral resources. And we have to make sure that as a continent, we also begin to understand that these borders that we have were artificially created by the Berlin Conference. So Africa must stop this self-hate against our own Africans. People who decide to chase away a fellow African in their own country than chasing away a white person because they believe that my own African is a problem. So we have to stop this hate, this xenophobic hate, because I hate my fellow sister because I see myself in them. So we have to begin to build a culture of love and solidarity across from Cape to Cairo. We have to begin to build African solidarity and love. Thirdly, I think that we have to begin to build regional blocks in the continent. We have to begin to benefit from our own resources, but also to have special economic zones. Which countries produces this and which countries produces that, so that we're able to benefit from the diamond in Botswana, from the oil in Angola, from the diamond in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the gold in Zimbabwe. So we have to begin to look at this regional integration conversation to rescue the African continent. So the summary of my contribution is that let's not think national, let's think continental as a generation. Let's not look at the problems independently of the problems in the Democratic Republic of Congo or the problems in Ethiopia. So when people are killing each other in Gaza, it must concern me as an African. When people are killing each other in Ethiopia or killing each other in West Africa, it must concern me because that peace in West Africa has an impact in the peace that we are seeking in the other parts of the continent. So we must think regional, we must think continental so that we're able to rescue the continent. We have to build our continent. We have to benefit from the resources. And more importantly, I think that we have to build merit-based leadership. Our continent needs people with the necessary skills and craft competence to take our continent forward. People who make us go back to the days of Jomo Kenyatta, days of Samora Machel, days of all these African leaders who gave Africa independence. Now the task in our hands, going beyond political independence and bringing economic emancipation to Africans who are living without water, who are living without access to health and access to education. So to do that, we have to understand that we then need leaders. Every generation has its own leadership. So young people that are prepared to be counted, to be part and parcel of those that are going to rescue the continent, who are going to understand that they have to go into leadership, not to serve themselves, but to serve their communities. People are going to choose clean water over champagne, because that is the current problem, where people who are choosing champagne instead of clean water for our people. So we have to make sure that we have responsible leadership, people that lead with merit, that lead with a conscience, people that lead with understanding that at the end of the day, the struggle must be helping the ordinary average African to live a life better than the dogs of the rich.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was also shocked to learn that trade within Europe is 61%, while its trade within Africa is 6%. That's so worrying, honestly. But like you mentioned, it is also important for us as young people to teach other young people that the challenges that they face today is always linked to the political question of that particular day. Thank you so much, Ostallos. It was really good to speak to you. We have learned a lot as young people, as young leaders. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Joyce. Have a great one.